Today's story is not just any story. It's the real-life journey of a boy who grew up facing poverty, yet never lost his dignity or spirit. Every day was a battle, but he faced it with courage, determination, and unwavering hope. Through every struggle, challenge, and moment of doubt, he chose to rise, to push forward, and to fight for his dreams. By the end of this story, you'll feel inspired to never give up, to embrace perseverance, and understand that no matter how hard life gets, strength, resilience, and determination can help you overcome any obstacle. Let this story remind you, greatness comes to those who keep standing no matter what. In a quiet village cradled by two silent hills, a boy named Nasi was born, not into wealth, but into struggle. The kind of struggle that wakes with the sun and sleeps late, wrapped in exhaustion. His home was made of sun-baked bricks. His meals were modest, and luxuries like electricity and clean water were stories whispered from neighboring towns. Nasir's father was a woodworker, his hands a map of scars and calluses. Every day, he shaped splintered wood into stools and cradles, earning just enough to keep the family afloat. Nasir, the eldest of 5, grew up helping him, steadying planks, delivering pieces to neighbors, and learning that survival was earned with sweat. But Nasir was not like the other boys in the village. Beneath his quiet eyes burned a fire not even poverty could extinguish. While others saw limits, Nasir saw possibilities. He dreamed not just for himself, but for all those he loved, for his mother, whose eyes had grown tired from worry, for his younger brothers, who deserved to study without hunger in their stomachs, and for his 2 little sisters, whose laughter deserved a better future. More than anything, Nasir dreamed of becoming rich, not for luxury, but so he could lift his family from the choking grip of poverty. He wanted to build them a real home, send his brothers to school, buy medicine when it was needed, and see his parents grow old in comfort, not in struggle. There was no proper school in the village, just a crumbling building with a blackboard that had more cracks than chalk. Still, Nasir walked miles every day, sometimes barefoot, just to tend. He studied under lanterns late into the night, even after long days helping his father in the workshop. He memorized math problems, absorbed science textbooks as if they were treasure maps, and devoured anything he could get his hands on. The villagers often shook their heads. Too smart for this place, they'd whisper. And they were right. After years of tireless effort, Nasir completed his 10th grade with top marks, a rare achievement in a village where education often ended with childhood. But he knew it wasn't enough. His dreams were bigger than the boundaries of the hills around him. So, one morning, with nothing more than a worn bag on his shoulder, a few rupees in his pocket, and a heart full of hope, Nasir boarded a rusting bus to the city. His mother wept quietly. His father placed a rough hand on his shoulder, and his siblings watched in silent awe. Nasir turned only once, smiled, and whispered to himself, "One day, I'll come back, not empty-handed, but with everything we've ever prayed for." And with that, the boy from a village walked into the unknown, not chasing wealth for its shine, but for the light it could bring to those he loved. The city roared louder than the wind in his village ever had. Buses groaned, horns cried out, and people moved like waves, never stopping, never looking back. Nasir stepped into it with nothing but a duffel bag and a dream stitched into his soul. Reality hit fast. Rooms were expensive, food cost more than he thought, and jobs didn't greet him with open arms. For the first few days, he wandered, dusty shoes, hopeful eyes, clutching a folder of certificates that felt increasingly like paperweights in a world that didn't care. But dreams don't feed hunger, and so Nasir turned back to the one thing he knew: wood. He found a tiny workshop tucked behind a crowded marketplace, a place that smelled of sawdust, sweat, and survival. The owner, an aging carpenter named Master Rafiq, took him in after seeing how confidently Nasir held the tools. It wasn't glamorous. He worked from dawn to dusk, sanding tabletops, carving handles, sweeping floors. The pay was barely enough for a single meal a day and rent for a shared room with 3 other laborers. Yet, Nasir never complained. He understood this was just a stepping stone, not a destination. At night, his fingers blistered and aching. He would still sit beneath the flickering light bulb in his rented room and flip through newspaper ads and job postings. He asked around, at bakeries, shops, offices, hoping for a chance to step into a world beyond wood and dust. Sometimes he was rejected without a glance. Other times they'd smirk. "You're from a village? Only 10th class pass? We'll call you," they'd say, and never did. But Nasir was not built to break. He carried within him the memory of his father's cracked hands, the voice of his mother telling him to rise, and the silent, watching eyes of his younger siblings waiting for his promise to come true. Even while working at the shop, he polished more than just furniture. He practiced his spoken English, asked customers how they got their jobs, and watched YouTube videos at internet cafes, learning computer basics, typing, and how to write a resume. He saved every coin he could, sometimes skipping meals, just to print a few more CVs, just to take one more bus ride to one more office. Weeks turned into months. The woodwork kept his body alive. The dream kept his spirit burning. He didn't know when his break would come, but he believed, with every grain of what he smoothed and every form he filled out, that one day, someone would see the fire in him. And when that day came, he would be ready, not just for himself, but for everyone who waited on him back home. It was an ordinary afternoon in the workshop. Sunlight streaming to the half-broken shutters, the air thick with the scent of varnish and old wood. Nasir was smoothing the edges of a worn chair when a well-dressed man stepped into the shop. His suit was sharp, his shoes polished, and his eyes scanned the place like someone used efficiency. "I need a custom computer table," he said briskly. "Sturdy, clean design. I work long hours. It needs to last." Master Rafiq looked up from his bench and nodded toward Nasir. "This boy will make it. One of the best hands I've seen." Nasir simply nodded, already measuring the client's needs in his mind. For 3 days, he worked meticulously, choosing the finest planks, sanding them to silk, aligning every joint with precision. It wasn't just a table. It was his unspoken resume, a quiet declaration that even if he had no suit or title, he had talent. When the customer returned, his eyebrows rose in surprise. The table was elegant, simple, functional, yet graceful in a way mass-produced furniture never was. This is excellent," the man said, running his fingers along the polished surface. "You made this alone?" "Yes, sir," Nasir replied, brushing sawdust off his apron. The man smiled, pulled out his wallet, and offered Nasir a generous tip. It was more than Nasir made in a week. But Nasir stepped back and shook his head gently. "Thank you, sir, but my father always taught me, earn with your hands, not with handouts. I've already been paid." The customer paused, taken aback. Then he chuckled. Rare, very rare. He returned the money to his pocket. "If you ever need anything, lad, just ask." Nasir's heart raced. It was a risk, but something inside urged him to speak. "Sir," he said carefully, "there's one thing. I passed my 10th class with high marks. I came here looking for a better life. For my family. If you really want to help, give me a chance. A job, any office work. I'll prove myself." The man studied him for a long moment, then smiled. "I'm a banker, manager at a private branch just a few blocks from here. We don't usually hire from workshops, but I believe in people more than paper. Come by tomorrow. Let's see what we can do." Nasir could hardly speak. He nodded, gratitude shining in his eyes, but he stood tall. No begging, no breaking, just belief. That night, under the dim bulb of his room, Nasir didn't sleep. He ironed his best shirt, still wrinkled but clean. He practiced greetings in front of the cracked mirror. He thought of his father, of his siblings, of that long, dusty road from his village, and he whispered to himself, "Tomorrow we begin again, The morning sun hadn't yet reached its full height when Nasir stood outside the bank's glass doors, nervous, hopeful, and dressed in his only formal shirt. The sleeves were a little short, the collar slightly worn, but it was clean and buttoned with pride. In his hands, he held a small plastic file containing his 10th grade certificate, a handwritten CV, and a photo he'd taken at a small studio just 2 streets away. The bank was cool and quiet inside, air-conditioned, polished, and filled with people who walked confidently in neatly pressed clothes. It was a different world from the heat and sawdust of the workshop. Then he saw him, the customer from the day before. The man smiled warmly and walked over. Nasir, right on time. He said, "Come with me." They stepped into his glass-walled office. The man's nameplate read, Asif Qureshi, branch manager. Mr. Asif glanced over the papers, then leaned back in his chair. "You don't have any office experience," he said frankly, "but what you do have is character. That matters more to me than any line on a resume." He picked up the phone, dialed a number, and spoke briefly. A few minutes later, another man in a dark blue shirt entered. "This is our operations head, Mr. Sajid," the manager said. "Nasir here will be joining us starting today. As a junior cash assistant, entry level, simple work. But it's a start. You'll learn." Nasir's mouth parted slightly in disbelief. He stood up quickly, overwhelmed. "Sir, thank you. I won't disappoint you. I promise." Mr. Asif smiled. "Just do what you did with that table. Put your heart into it." By noon, Nasir was sitting at a desk near the back, learning how to organize deposit slips, handle currency, sort checks, and assist senior cashiers. It wasn't easy. He had to pick up banking terms, computer basics, customer handling. But he watched closely, wrote everything down, and stayed late to revise. The wooden tools were gone. Now his hands counted money and typed on keyboards. Yet the same fire drove him, the promise to his family, the hunger to rise, the pride to build, not beg. And for the first time in years, Nasir allowed himself a small smile. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He had finally taken the first real step toward changing everything. Nasir's first few weeks at the bank were a whirlwind. The routines were strict, the environment sharp, and the pace unforgiving. Mistakes were not welcome where numbers ruled everything. But Nasir was no stranger to pressure. He had learned precision from years of woodworking and discipline from poverty. Every challenge at the bank was just a new kind of nail to be driven in straight. He arrived early, often before the shutters opened, and stayed late, even when his shift had ended. He took notes, asked questions, and practiced typing after hours at a cyber cafe. The senior staff noticed. So did Mr. Asif. "Most new hires take months to find their feet," Mr. Asif remarked one evening. "You've only been here a few weeks, and you're already balancing small cash drawers." Nasir smiled humbly. "Sir, I'm just trying not to waste the opportunity you gave me." Within 6 months, Nasir was promoted to assistant cashier. His responsibilities increased, handling transactions, updating ledgers, helping customers. The salary was still modest, but now he could afford 3 meals a day and send money home every month. The first time he transferred funds to his father's account, he enclosed a note. "Abba, this is not charity. This is your hard work returning to you." Back in the village, his parents wept silently with pride. His younger brothers had new books. His sisters no longer went to bed hungry. Even the villagers spoke his name with admiration now. But success did not make Nasir arrogant. It made him hungry for more. At night, he began studying again, preparing for government banking exams, learning Excel, writing English emails with the help of online tutorials. He knew that if he stopped now, he'd simply become another clerk in a long line of forgotten men. But if he kept going, he could rise, maybe even manage his own branch one day. He often walked past glass offices upstairs and imagined himself sitting there, making decisions, helping others like him get their start. But success, like life, rarely comes without resistance. Some of the older staff began to murmur, too ambitious, trying to impress. Just a village boy pretending to be something he's not. And one day, During a routine cash reconciliation, a senior cashier misplaced a bundle of currency, and the blame quickly fell on Nasir. The branch buzzed with tension. His reputation, his job, his entire future was suddenly at risk, but Nasir didn't panic. He asked to check the records. He went through the logs, matched slips, cross-verified entries. Hours passed. Finally, he found it. A duplicate entry mistakenly filed under the wrong drawer. The bundle had never even passed through his hands. The mistake was proven. The tension dissolved. Mr. Asif called him in the next morning. "I knew you were honest," he said, "but now I know you're also strong under pressure. Keep going, Nasir. You've got more ahead of you than you realize." And Nasir, with a soft smile, replied, "Inshallah, sir, this is only the beginning." I hope you enjoyed the story. But this is not the end. The adventure continues. In the next part, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you do not miss what happens next. Thanks for your watching video and your support.